Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Jonasz Lewiński. A ceasefire with Russia could take place if the free and sovereign Ukrainian territories are taken under the NATO umbrella, said President Volodymyr Zelensky in an interview with Sky News. In his view, membership in this military alliance could be the key to ending the war. Volodymyr Zelensky suggests that in exchange for Kyiv's NATO membership, he is ready for an agreement with Russia even if Moscow does not immediately give up the seized Ukrainian territories. This is the first time Zelensky has touched on temporarily giving up land currently controlled by Russia. In his view, the hot phase of the war could be stopped once the Ukrainian territories under Kyiv's control come under the umbrella of NATO. Meanwhile, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization has not committed itself firmly to any specific time frame for Ukraine's accession, merely saying that Ukraine's path towards NATO is irrevocable. According to President Zelensky, a two-phase solution to regain occupied Ukrainian territories could also be accepted. In an interview with World Talks, Cristian Preda, a professor of political science at the University of Bucharest, said that while the idea is feasible, no specific offer is on the table yet.
Zelensky, of course, he's interested to join NATO, and I think one of the part of the end of the conflict will be an offer coming from NATO. But today, this is highly theoretical. So I think it's a position expressing the interest to join NATO with the unoccupied territory, and to try after that to reappropriate the other parts of Ukraine already occupied by Russia since 2014. The day after Ukraine joined NATO, NATO will protect the territory of Ukraine. So the occupied territory will be recuperated with common forces of NATO. But there is no such an offer from NATO. So this is an interesting idea, but it's not a concrete offer.
A day before the general elections in Romania, a vote count is still underway concerning the last week's presidential elections. Our correspondent Paweł Trzaskowski is on site in Bucharest to shed more light on this story. Paweł, so what does the situation look like now? Are we expecting any particular developments to be announced soon?
Hello, Jonas. Well, the second count of the first round of presidential elections is still underway, and the results should be known on Sunday. And let me tell you why there is a recount of the first round of presidential elections. Well, there were certain irregularities about the voting. The biggest irregularity was the fact that the former Prime Minister of Romania, Ludovic Orban, was initially intending to run, but he pulled off from the elections in the very last moment. However, his name has already been printed on the ballots which were used in the first round of presidential elections. Therefore, this is the basis for the protest, for the voting protest, and the recount was needed. Now, as I already told you, the results of the recount shall be known on Sunday, and initially it was thought that the current Prime Minister of Romania, Marcel Ciolacu, could benefit from the recount. And why is that? He scored third place, but was only 3,000 votes behind the second place Elena Lasconi. So there was a possibility that he could be elevated to the second round. However, Marcel Ciolacu announced on Facebook that he has no intention in taking the second place, and he is pulling off from the elections altogether. So after the recount, on Monday, a decision will be made whether to annul the presidential voting altogether. If this happens, then there will be no second round of presidential elections next week, but 2 more rounds later in December. But before this happens, the general elections that will happen tomorrow on Sunday. I'm actually standing in front of the Romanian parliament, and tomorrow Romanians will go to cast their ballots to elect their new government. Back to the studio.
Paweł Trzaskowski there with the latest from Romania, which is still being gripped by a political crisis on the eve of parliamentary elections. Paweł, thank you very much for joining us. And now we're moving on to the next story. In Georgia, thousands of pro-European protesters have returned to the streets of the capital Tbilisi, where they clashed with police early on Sunday. The clashes were quite brutal, according to the footage emerging on social media, and the protests resulted from the government's decision to postpone negotiations with the European Union.
The second night of unrest follows the ruling Georgian Dream Party's announcement that it was putting European Union accession talks on hold until 2028. Protesters were targeted by water cannon as they attempted to set up barricades in the city centre. EU accession is overwhelmingly popular in Georgia, according to opinion polls, and the move saw thousands protest outside the parliament building in Tbilisi on Thursday night into Friday morning. Hundreds of serving employees of the country's foreign, defence, education and justice ministries on Friday signed open letters denouncing the freeze-in talks as unconstitutional.
Kosovo's Prime Minister Albin Kurti has blamed Serbia for a powerful blast that badly damaged a key canal in northern Kosovo, which supplies water to 2 power plants. The waterway was damaged in an explosion on Friday evening. During a news conference, Kurti claimed that what he called a terrorist act had been carried out by gangs orchestrated by neighboring Serbia. The canal supplies a pair of power stations that provide almost all of Kosovo's electricity. There were no immediate reports of injuries, and the cause of the blast, which also hit drinking water supplies, remains unclear. Rebel Islamist forces have advanced in northern Syria and now control most of the city of Aleppo. That's according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights Monitoring Group. The Sana state news agency reports that at least 4 civilians died and a number of students were injured on Friday as rebel fighters fired shells at an accommodation building in the city. Reuters reports that government forces on Sunday shut all roads into the city and closed Aleppo's airport. The opposition militants carried out a lightning offensive through government-held territory earlier this week, advancing into Syria's second-largest city almost 10 years after the Syrian regime, supported by Russia, forced them out. A ghost ship was seen drifting in the Baltic Sea after its crew was evacuated on Thursday. The merchant ship Sofia sailed out from Poland's north on Thursday, and a fire broke out shortly thereafter. Just 30 nautical miles from the Polish shore, an empty shell of a burned ship is adrift in the Baltic Sea. Just after setting sail from Poland's Ustka harbour, Danish services told the Polish Maritime Search and Rescue Service that a fire had broken out on the board. Danish and Swedish helicopters arrived to evacuate the 5-person crew of the ship. They were taken to a Danish frigate. It remains unknown what caused the fire and the subsequent damage on board the Sofia. The Polish Maritime Office has reported that a tugboat from Germany is now on its way to tow the vessel to the nearest port or a repair yard. Christmas celebrations are kicking off in Lithuania's capital, Vilnius. This European city, known for its spectacular winter markets, is now open for business. And let's face it, Christmas is not just about the atmosphere and family meetings, it's also about shopping. Speaking of which, Black Friday is now over and Cyber Monday is just around the corner, which means that shoppers are gearing up for the biggest sales of the season. To help consumers navigate the plethora of deals safely and smartly, the Polish Office of Competition and Consumer Protection has released a list of tips to avoid potential pitfalls during this shopping frenzy.
These sales might seem tempting, but sometimes they are too good to be true.
I'm not shopping during Black Friday because I think it's a scam. I mean, prices are raised earlier to then be artificially cut. Or if it's a genuine discount, it's something like 5%, and that's not very enticing.
The Polish Office of Competition and Consumer Protection is urging consumers to stay vigilant during Black Friday and Cyber Monday promotions. Their guidelines advise shoppers to compare prices beforehand, read the fine print on discounts, and be cautious of offers that seem too good to be true. The aim is to protect consumers from deceptive practices and ensure they benefit from genuine deals. According to recent data from the Cashless Poland Foundation, approximately 2/3 of Poles plan to take advantage of Black Friday promotions this year. Many are looking to purchase electronics, clothing and household appliances and do it at a big bargain. According to UCE research, 1/3 of Poles are hoping for discounts higher than 50%. We took to the streets of Warsaw to ask residents about their Black Friday shopping plans.
Yeah, I do shop during Black Friday actually. I buy holiday presents for my children, but I don't think the prices are that good. I shopped for clothes. I wanted to buy specific things. I researched their price before the Black Friday discount and compared it to today.
Consumers are warned that Black Friday can sometimes be a marketing trap. In the past years, some retailers were found to inflate prices before the sales, only to reduce them during Black Friday, making the discounts appear more significant than they actually were. However, something has already been done to address this issue. Introduced last year, the EU's Omnibus Directive requires sellers to display the lowest price of a product from the last 30 days, alongside the current discounted price.
And with this, we conclude this edition of TVP World News. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.